Hey, welcome back to the show. We've got another video exploring tones with the Victory VX Kraken MkII. This is the 50 watt version with the timber outer sleeve. I've really been enjoying playing around with it lately and just seeing how it actually reacts with different pedals in the front end, different EQs in the effects loop, compression, different guitar combinations, different pickups, active or passive, and all these subtle little things that just seem minor on the surface, but you stack them all up and they sort of compound, and sometimes you can just end up with a really cool combination of pedals and unassuming gear and just get some great tones out of it. And something just quickly before getting on with the show, it was brought to my attention once again that the reason for my show being unprofessional and lacking quality content was because I wasn't wearing any shoes. I just aim to please guys, and I really hope the quality of the show increases because of my shoes. Well anyways, if you missed the last video on the Kraken, we just dove into the first impressions and just about the basics of the amp. Right now we're just on channel 1, and this is really just like a Marshally vibe sort of channel. It's not really like a JCM 800 in my ears. To me, it's almost like a modded Plexia, a little bit of the blue channel, the 5150, slight bit of JCM 800. It's just a real mixture of a lot of amps, and it's just got a really great foundation, and it works really well with a lot of pedals in the front end just to boost things in different ways and just get totally different tones. But the tone I've just dialed in to start with is the ultimate Rust in Peace guitar tone, one of my favourite records of all time. And for that, Dave Mustaine was using the Hafler Triple Giant, or the Bogner Big Fish it was known back then, in the VHT power section. So it wasn't even a Marshall based tone that he was doing, it was a totally different preamp. It had that really cool fizzy cutting sort of mid-focus tone going through it. And I always try and get it on all the different amps, but this one just does it really well. And for that, in the effects loop, I've got the Origin Effects Cali 76 compression, and I'm only fairly new to compression and just the way it works and using it in the front end as a boost. But I just love the way it sounds when you have it in the effects loop, and it really just comes out like you've got a finalized mixed and mastered guitar track. And downstream of the compressor, we're going through the Puppet Master EQ from Master Effects, and I just find this is a really cool parametric EQ that just really, it doesn't change the signal too much. It's very transparent almost, but you can just really bump and boost or scoop frequencies exactly where you need them. And then for boosting the front end, I really like the Wild Overdrive. We're not running much gain at all. It's just on high output with the gain right down. And that then is just going into the MXR 6 band just to bump some of those mids and just to get that sort of more fizzy sort of control on the top. If we turn that off. If we turn the compression off from here, you get a bit more of a raw style tone, some of you may prefer. Oh, and something I've just tried with the amp for now, I've just depressed the bass focus switch on the back. So we'll just turn that off now and you can just compare the difference in the tones. You can just feel there's a whole lot more weight added to that, but I find as well, with especially the MXR 6 band being in the front end, to counteract that weight if it's just a little bit too much, we can just take some of these bass frequencies away going into the amp, and it just seems to really tighten that bottom end if you find that things get a little bit loose. that's just something that I use a fair bit as a technique, just to tighten an amp up or just add a little bit more weight if it needs it. But just trying to focus now more of like a Marshall style tone and just see how it goes for those classic sort of thrash tones. And something that's really cool about the Kraken, we touched on it last week, is the presence control. And it's not just like a presence control, it's almost like it's got a dual function, like it's a semi-contour sort of dial as well. But I'll just chug away and you'll just hear the way that that just changes the whole amp. And you can just hear the way that dramatically just changes the whole feel of the amp. It really takes it from like a dark sort of dry style amp into a really sort of abrasive Marshall that's just really cranked, and I just think it's really cool. And it really just captures that Marshall vibe really well if you want it to. All the dials are fairly neutral, but for me that's so far so good album tone. That's just one of those absolute classic sort of thrash tones that so many sort of bands adopted around that era. It's just a classic sort of Marshall bass style tone, but this amp just does it and does it really well. We'll just quickly check a Slayer tone before moving on. I'll leave the pedals where they are, add a bit of carbon copy delay. And I think that was just too cool. It was a totally different way that I usually get Slayer, having an OD in the front end, not just a gain, but it just seemed to work really well with the whole Kraken thing. We'll come back, I'll work on it this week, we'll come back. I just want to see how far it goes with Slayer and getting those sorts of tones, because that was just awesome. Anyway, on with Megadeth. I found that channel 2 on this amp, dial's pretty much fairly centered. I just found it absolutely nails the whole countdown to extinction, especially with the Origin Effects compression in the loop. I'll just show you that quickly. Oh, and I'm also utilising the auto volume switch on the back of the amp, which assigns a different master volume from channel 1 to channel 2. So this is the channel 2 volume and the channel 1 master volume. What I love about it is it's got that real sort of heavy sort of thump about it, but it's also got that sort of upper crunch that just comes through as well. And it captures those latter few albums all through the 90s and 2000s, all System Has Failed and everything like that. It just does it really well. For the guitar that I was using today, I've got the Jackson KVX loaded with the Seymour Duncan Thrash Factor Dave Mustaine pickups, and I've wired them up just so it's a master volume for both pickups and a master tone control. But I've found with the Thrash Factor pickups, they've just got a really high-end presence about them, and sometimes it's nice just to crack that top end off just slightly and you just turn that tone back a little tiny bit, and you can really manipulate the tone just so it really is just like a standard JB or something like a TB4 as soon as you just crack that top end off. So it makes them really versatile if you have a tone control. And for outputting the signal today, we're going through the 2-notes Torpedo Captor X, where we're simulating the Dave Mustaine 412 with the V30s inside. SM57, I think between 30 or 40% off the dust cap, just in the software. There's presets and links in the description. But that's it today, exploring those Megadeth tones with the VX Kraken. They were my favourite 3 Megadeth albums, but the Kraken pretty much does the whole discography of Megadeth. It's just such a cool amp. But anyway, guys, until next time, we'll dive into a bit of Slayer and just see what sort of brutal tones we can get there. But until then, guys, take care. Bye.